Hey, Todd Haynes is back, and Netflix has got him in theaters now and coming this Friday to Netflix is May December with Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman. And no, they're not the romantic couple at the center of this.
They're not, but there is a bit of a dance going on with them. There's a bit of a flirtation, a moment of tension here or there that suggests the possibility of that. So I would say that everything's on the table. Everything's fluid. Everything's fluid as they're all kind of feeling each other out here.
When they sent me the script, I thought, here is a woman with a lot more to her than I remember from the tabloids.
You'd be forgiven for thinking this is inspired by the whole Mary Kay LeTourneau scandal. It does seem a lot like that. For those of you who are too young to remember it, she was a teacher who hooked up with one of her students when he was very young, like he was a teenager, right?
13, 14.
And she had his baby and they fell in love and they were together for many years. This is not necessarily inspired by that, I don't think, but it definitely has echoes of that. And as far as just like the ickiness of it, which this movie doesn't actually play for ickiness, which is an interesting choice that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So Natalie Portman is an actress, and she is playing Julianne Moore's character in an upcoming movie. Julianne Moore, when she was like 36, was working at a pet store, and she had an affair with Charles Melton's character when he was like 12 or 13. He was a 7th grader.
And
he
her
went to
son's
go work
classmate.
part-time. And her son's classmate too. That's a key point. And so now, all these years later, after she has done her prison time, after the scandal has been forgotten and they're living a quiet life on, is it an island off the coast of Savannah? Is that where they are?
That was my impression. I don't know if it's Sea Island or one of those, but yeah, they refer to it as the island, and Natalie Portman staying in Savannah. So yeah, I assume it's a coastal island off the coast of southern Georgia.
Right. They have a really like idyllic, quiet life, but you know, he is now 36, which makes her about 60, right? So all this time later, I was doing math in my head. I'm like, wait, how old were they all? Anyway, so it's about this really delicate and exquisitely uncomfortable entanglement that they all get into, because Natalie Portman is there to just observe and take notes and get to know all the players here, but in particular Julianne Moore's character, Gracie, and find out, you know, in just to understand you. When she first gets there, like, I just want to understand you. You know, there's no judgment. I just want to get to the truth of who you are and who you were, and says all the right things. But as they all get to know each other better, it gets just so juicy and wrong in thrilling and darkly funny ways and very tense ways. This reminded me quite a bit of the kinds of larks that Steven Soderbergh has done over the years, in terms of, especially in terms of the lighting and the way that it's shot, because there's like a hazy kind of gauzy beauty to it that also confuses and like blends in with what's really happening, like right. the undercurrent of tension and manipulation. And there's like a sort of sardonic underbelly here, like an undercurrent of dark humor within what is, you know, in other people's hands, very judgy and very hand-wringing and very finger-wagging. So the tone is so delicate here, and what the two actresses are doing as far as how they play off each other and how they influence each other is always fascinating. The use of mirrors and the use of costume design choices. And then what Charles Melton is doing is really unexpected too. We were talking in our news segment about how he just won at the Gotham Awards for his supporting performance. And like, he's not the hunk. He's kind of stunted and kind of a dolt, and he's boring. But he's also stuck. Like, he's stuck with this person, and how does he navigate that? So I was endlessly fascinated by this.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Like, it's a really small, very tight-knit community. To like, her first husband and her children and grandchildren all live nearby, and like, her grandkids from the first husband go to high school with her kids from the second marriage. You have the whole notion of like, even if you take out the sort of central thing that's kind of, you know, scandalous or whatever, this whole idea about, it's kind of like when we talk about the end of Killers of the Flower Moon, like what happens when you turn this real life story into art or entertainment? What happens when you are an actress who is observing a real person, but at what point does that relationship become like parasitic or manipulative? You know, there's a lot of different things going on at the same time. There's a kind of a throwaway joke that I think is actually very telling here. Natalie Portman talks about how her parents were academics, and her mother wrote a really well-received book about epistemic relativism, which I had to look up because I had no idea what the hell that meant. And it is the position that knowledge is valid only relative to a specific context, society, culture, or individual. So when you think about it, like the relationship between Julianne Moore and Charles Melton in other cultures would maybe be considered no big deal. But in this culture, she went to jail for it. And he is, as you say, kind of emotionally stunted. And they do have this intimate relationship, but there is kind of a mommy, like telling him basic things to do all the time. You know, like pick up your crap, and you know, there's a weird dynamic there that isn't entirely like these are two peers and these are two people in love who are on equal footing, you know. So there's just there's so much to dig into here, and Todd Haynes loves the disparities between like show business and reality. That's a theme he's come to a lot, and just the way that, you know, multiple things can be happening at the same time, and everyone and no one is a hero and a villain, you know, in this. So yeah, I found it just really fascinating.
If you're in an extremely awkward situation and like you need to go to a picnic at someone's house, like Natalie Portman does here in this film, and you don't know what to bring, may I recommend some non-alcoholic athletic beer, because it is, well, the holiday blends they have right now are great. Lodge Life is so tasty. It has hints of cinnamon and vanilla in it. It's like a cozy little stout to sit by the fire. I just brought some of their IPA and their golden to Thanksgiving at a friend's house over the last week here. 10% off for you with breakfast all day is your code. And you get free shipping with $50 worth of beer. Now's a great time to get that. And they have deals for the holidays. They have subscriptions. So do all that. I love the way this film is shot. Christian Blovell, who shoots a lot of Kelly Reichardt stuff, is the cinematographer. And so there's like a scene where when she's first pulling up to the house, and it looks initially kind of idyllic, like the moss hanging down from the trees, and it's this charming small town. But there's also like
there's a marching band
blinding. There's also like a whole running undercurrent with like the Savannah walking tour and people hearing the scandalous stories of stuff that happened there. And I feel like that's an interesting thing he's weaving in and out too, like the legend of what we've all been told about, you know, shocking stuff, and then the truth in the day in, day out. It's an interesting contrast too. So that's all good. And I want to mention also Cory Michael Smith, who plays Georgie. Georgie, who is the eldest son who went to school with Charles Melton's character when they were kids, and how this scandal has messed him up. Like, he's a total live wire. He's so exciting to watch. You have no idea, like in a way that like young Sam Rockwell was. Like when you first saw Sam Rockwell and you're like, what is he doing? I felt like that with this guy too.
And if you know him from like Gotham or as the private investigator in Carol, you will not recognize him. He is like physically, it just like all of it is so different. Like it's really exciting to see an actor dig into a whole other section of their like paint box that you've never seen them use before. I was thrilled to see him in this.
But then the veterans who we know are great are also exciting here in ways that are like dangerous. Like there's a monologue that Natalie Portman gives toward the end where you will just hold your breath as she is delivering it. And then Julianne Moore is constantly making you guess. Like, you know, they've worked together for so long, you know, she and Todd Haynes, that there's so much clear history and comfort there that she can just make these really exciting choices. So I dug it. This might end up being a possible top 10 movie for me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I love the scene where Natalie Portman's character goes and talks to the high school drama class. And and you think it's just going to be like the sort of fluffy, like, oh, what's it like? What's it like to be an actor? And like she takes it to some weird places, and even the teacher's kind of like, are we talking about this? Like, could we not? No, this could absolutely.
But that's not just shocking for shock's sake, though.
No,
and that enlightens us so much early on as to who she really is, right?
Yes, absolutely. This is so much a movie about like people revealing themselves through action rather than dialogue, like throughout. And but also like the dialogue, even the way, like the things that emerge about Julianne Moore's relationship with her daughters and the stuff that she says to them in a seemingly well-meaning way that's also super passive aggressive. Like, this is really tightly put together and just so well acted. And it's not your usual Todd Haynes film, but at the same time, I think it does touch on a lot of things, like I said, that he, issues that he finds interesting and topics he wants to address.
And the score is great too. The score is like a takeoff on the score from The Go-Between. I love the score too.
Yeah, it's like you're watching the movie that Natalie Portman is eventually going to make, because it has this sort of like portentous melodramatic like to it. That's I thought that was really great as well. Yeah, this is a great movie. People should check it out.
What's your number?
I'll say 9. I really dug it.
I was thinking 9 while we were talking about it too. So yes, May, December is in theaters, but it'll be on Netflix on December 1st. Check it out.